Let me tell you, Saf, I'll tell you the reason. Because Barnabas, he was prophesying that Muhammad was going to come. And there was this great conspiracy. Oh no, Barnabas knows about Muhammad. We have to erase him from history. And oops, now they erased him from history. Now we covered up all the evidence because of the conspiracy.
They covered him and replaced him with false Apostle Paul. That's what they've done, the early church.
Wait. They replaced him with his ministry partner.
No, wait. Let me answer.
No, Saf.
Let me speak.
Saf, no.
Yeah.
You don't realize it's like, dude, it's like you're going to say, it's like you're saying here, hey, I say 2 + 2 is 5. Let me speak. 2 + 2 is 5.
If you read chapter 4, verse 157, and if you read Psalms verse 91, it matches 100%.
I've never met a Christian who interprets Psalm 91 as denying that Jesus would be crucified, ever. No one would do it that way because it would completely contradict everything and would even contradict messianic prophecies. We're supposed to look, all 4 Gospels affirm over and over and over again like a beating drum that Jesus died. I mean, also that he was beaten, that he was nailed to a cross, and that he died. You find the same thing over and over and over again from Jesus' disciples in the book of Acts, and then throughout the letters and so on of the New Testament. You go back, you find prophecies about this, messianic prophecies like Psalm 22, which Jesus appealed to for himself. And then you're actually quoting the psalm that Satan quoted to Jesus right before he said, "Get behind me, Satan." When Satan quotes that and says, "Hey, nothing bad can happen to you," you're saying you have to go with your interpretation of Psalm 91 and then reject the actual messianic prophecies that affirm that things were going to happen to the Messiah. And then additional prophecies from other prophets like Isaiah 53, which says that he's going to be pierced for our transgressions. You're saying we have to reject all of that based on your understanding of Psalm 91, which you are clearly appealing to in order to somehow bring it in line with Surah 4, 157 of the Quran. I just want to know, are you joking? Of all these references, Jesus says over and over and over to his apostles, he's going up to Jerusalem and he's going to be beaten last, crucified, and killed. He says it over and over and over again. And what you're telling us to do is, hey, Jesus said he was going up to be killed in Jerusalem. But no, Jesus, that can't be right because Psalm 91, Saphraz says that's about you. And he says you didn't deny it when Satan brought it up and therefore use that to completely contradict the words of Jesus. Stop telling us when we have clear, indisputably clear statements from Jesus himself saying he's going up to Jerusalem to die. And you say, no, he obviously means he's going to go up to Jerusalem and no one can hurt him because Psalm 91. Jesus is the one who said it had to happen this way. He had to be crucified in order to fulfill scriptures. This is what we're trying to say because we see this over and over and over again. You can read thousands of verses. You will zero in on one that you can twist into an Islamic perspective. Ignore all of the crystal clear verses that completely refute you. And Seth, this is a fundamental rule of scriptural interpretation. I mean, basics of the basics. This is day one of exegesis. You interpret unclear verses, unclear passages in light of clear passages. If you have a clear verse that is clearly saying something, and you have something over here which, yeah, you could interpret it that way if you wanted. But what we find from our Muslim friends is you can have dozens of clear verses saying Jesus died. You'll go to a passage which you can, by a stretch of the imagination, interpret the way you're saying, as long as you ignore all of the clear passages. And then you tell us, you say, hey, now go with my interpretation of this verse that completely contradicts all of the clear verses. That is the exact opposite of how any correct exegesis would go. You don't. You go to the clear verses. Guess what? Jesus says, I'm going up to Jerusalem where I'm going to be crucified and die. That's as clear a statement as can be. And so if you're going to then interpret Psalm 91, you have to make sure your understanding of Psalm 91 fits the clear verses where Jesus speaks clearly. I'm saying,
calm down, David. Calm down.
No, you don't realize. It's like, dude, it's like you're going to say, it's like you're saying here, hey, I say 2 + 2 is 5. Let me speak. 2 + 2 is 5. Darn it. I said it. Let me speak, David. 2 + 2 is 5. I figured it out. 2 + 2 is 5. Come on, let me talk. That's what you sound like.
Your early church removed him, removed the disciple Barnabas and putting false apostle Paul into the equation.
I can't believe he went to a Gnostic text, bro. Are you kidding me?
I'm not going to. Wait, let me speak, man. You're all interrupting.
Barnabas isn't even Gnostic. That was written more than 1,000 years after the time of Jesus, and it was written in Italian.
David, I'm not talking about the Italian gospel. I'm talking about the disciple himself. Why did the early church remove him, and where was he? What was he?
Dude, Steph, there's a reason you hear people laughing. There's a reason. Give us any evidence that Barnabas was an original disciple of Jesus.
Barnabas was apostle. It's even in the New Testament.
Yeah. But that's part of the wider group because he was sent out by Jesus later. Like Paul wasn't an original disciple of Jesus. He didn't walk with Jesus during his earthly ministry. Jesus appeared to him later. Apostle just means one who is sent out. That's all apostle means. One who is sent, right? One who is sent. So Paul and Barnabas were sent by Jesus. They were not one of the original apostles.
Barnabas was sent, not Paul.
Whatever you want to say, dude. Seth, dude.
Sapphire's, do you even know who Barnabas is? He's Paul's companion.
This is like the dumbest thing I've never heard,
bro.
If you cannot make one single point that does not sound insane and idiotic, this is not to be insulting. If you come up to me and say 2 + 2 is 5, I'm going to be like, dude, I'm just not interested in this right now. If you're saying, why did they wipe out the apostle Barnabas? What the heck? Like a 4-year-old would not be that ridiculous.
They took the main guy.
Let me tell you, Saf. I'll tell you the reason. Because Barnabas, he was prophesying that Muhammad was going to come, and there was this great conspiracy. Oh no, Barnabas knows about Muhammad. We have to erase him from history. And oops, now they erased him from history. Now we covered up all the evidence because of the conspiracy.
They covered him and replaced him with false apostle Paul. That's what they've done, the early church.
Wait. They replaced him with his ministry partner.
No, wait. Let me answer.
From Acts chapter 13, influenced by the Holy Spirit.
Hey,
David.
They replaced Barnabas with the man that Barnabas brought into the church. Remember everyone in the book of Acts?
No. Acts chapter 9, the disciples.
Let me answer.
You're attacking the apostle Paul. When the apostle Paul became a Christian, No, I didn't even make my point yet. When the point is you have absolutely no clue what you're talking about. So we're trying to make sure people understand. When the apostle Paul became a Christian, Paul was a persecutor before that. When Paul became a Christian, the church did not trust him. They're like, how do we know this guy's not just coming to kill us all? And we are not letting this guy in. Barnabas is the one who brings Paul in and says, guys, I've been with him. He's totally legit. He converted and so on. Now you're saying that there's this massive conspiracy to wipe Barnabas out and replace him with the guy that Barnabas brought to the church. Saf, suppose I came up to you, just as a hypothetical. Suppose I came up to you, Saf, and I said, everyone, I want you to know, Muhammad was a devout Christian. He believed in the Trinity. He believed that Jesus died on the cross for sins and rose from the dead. And then after Muhammad came along, an evil conspirator named Uthman came along, and he took all the Qurans and burned them to cover up the fact that Muhammad affirmed the death, resurrection, and divine nature of Jesus. And therefore, Uthman, this evil man, he came along, covered up all the sources, burned them all, and invented what's now known as Islam. That is exactly what you sound like now to us, even though we could offer a much better case for that because we do have references to Uthman burning all the Qurans and so on. But just imagine, Saf, all you do is say stuff. Because David. Barnabas left him because he knew he was a liar and deceiver. We don't have any reference to that anywhere, ever. And so if you're saying it, that means all you're doing is saying it. And if all you're going to do is say it, great. Muhammad was a devout Christian. Why do you not believe your devout Christian prophet who bowed down at the feet of Jesus and worshipped him as Lord? Why do you reject him in favor of Uthman when Uthman is the deceiver?
The problem you have here is I've read the Aramaic Gospel of Barnabas, and he's saying the same thing.
The Aramaic Gospel of Barnabas. You read an Aramaic version of a book that was written.
Let me speak.
You read an Aramaic version of a gospel that was written 1,000 years after the time of Christ in Italian.